sort of plodding and rational thinker. And that stage of my thinking, the mushroom as extraterrestrial, and I don't deny it to this day, but it had to do with dealing in a rational way with the question, who's talking? Who is talking? Because I don't know if I've mentioned this specifically, but when you take mushrooms, one of the unique things about psilocybin is that it speaks. It not only shows you hallucinations as other compounds do, but it speaks in English to you, addressing your concerns. And this is very well attested to, well known. It's part of the literature. Well, and this is really what drew me into this, because in the 60s, I was like every college kid into LSD and so forth. But I had this friend who kept saying, it talks to you. And I just thought, this was the ravings of a diseased intellect. I could not conceive of what that statement meant. It talks to you. The plant talks to you. Well, then when I finally got to mushrooms, I discovered that it's so. And it contravenes the confines of your room late at night on an empty stomach. You've just eaten a plate of champignon, and now you're having a dialogue with a disincarnate entity that claims perfect knowledge of the last 100 million years of galactic history and wants to chat about it with you. Well, so here are the possibilities. It's either an entity in another dimension, which notice that that's a black box explanation. We don't know what another dimension is, but another dimension. Or it's yourself, or it's an extraterrestrial. And then there is some other possibilities, like it might be human beings in the future or something like that. Well, then let's look at the most obvious explanation that the rationalist will lunge for. It's yourself. It has to be yourself. Well, then, I mentioned this earlier, then how come you can't recognize it? If it's yourself, how come it seems to be the weirdest thing you've ever encountered or imagined? That somewhat twists the definition of the self. And so then I began thinking, well, extraterrestrial. Let's try to fairly assess this without prejudging it. Let's look at the mushroom. Let's look at fungi generally. What are they? They're what are called primary decomposers. That means that mushrooms are the only form of life that lives only on dead matter. The dietary habits of mushrooms make the dietary habits of the Dalai Lama look like an orgy of slaughter, because the mushroom eats only dead matter. It is a karmaless diet.